إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Brothers and sisters, the truth is, we did not create ourselves. We are not the ones that are responsible for the food that we eat. We are not the ones that have built our homes. We are not the ones that chose our blessed parents who raised us and blessed us with so much of their time and love and effort. All of that goes back to the mercy and compassion of the merciful and compassionate who we are coming from. And so we live a life of praise and gratitude as a result of recognizing this fundamental truth of existence. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he woke up in the manner that he did. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. The Prophet ﷺ, every single morning he's waking up. All praise and gratitude is due to the one who has given us life after we were dead. And to him we will all be gathered together and held responsible for who we chose to be, how we chose to live. And so I would say easily a good large percentage of Muslims memorize and could tell you what to say when you wake up. But I would also venture in my own struggle with spirituality, as all human beings have, many people do not ever say that when they wake up. And so what we're talking about is how you begin your day. What level of devotion is in your heart in knowing the one who has surrounded all things with his compassion, love, and mercy. وَسِعَتْ رَحْمَتُهُ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. If we recognize that from the moment we wake up, I can guarantee you that will be a good day. So here at MCC, we have this mission statement, devotion to God. That is the primary purpose for our existence and the wisdom behind what we do. It is the reason why we do what we do and say what we say. We are not doing what we do to fit in with or to be respected by or loved by people or cultural heritages or legacies of family honor. Rather, we are seeking the pleasure of God. And if that's how we begin, we will constantly realize how short we are coming up to do that. So the next element is striving for excellence. Striving for excellence. We have to become better people. We have to grow. We have to learn from our mistakes. We have to improve upon how we live. We have to make sure that we are truly living the dua, the Prophet's prayers and his remembrance in our daily lives, and that is something that governs our behavior and our words as a result of a devotion to it. So we strive for excellence. We don't get complacent. We don't accept the status quo. We always know that we need to step up the bar in our character, our spirituality, our ethics, our morals, our ways of dealing with people. And so we are here as MCC wanting to build generations of thriving Muslims. So we are nurturing American Muslims engaged in the service of society. The ultimate reality of ihsan, if you study the word. And it's beautiful how theologically and linguistically the word is used. Because ihsan means to beautify or perfect. To make it better in a nice way. Itqan is to perfect the means of doing it. How you do it, the best way, that's called itqan. But ihsan is to do it in a beautiful way, with the best of character. And how will the best of character be? Something that is derived through knowing Asma'ullah al-Husna. If you know the lofty qualities and traits of God, then that will affect how you are and it will make you do ihsan. That's why the Prophet, when asked by the angel Gabriel, what is ihsan? أَن تَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. That you are worshipping Him, knowing all of His qualities and characteristics. That's why you would worship Him. If you know Him and how He has described Himself, then you will want to be close to Him. You will want to reflect His light of all His beautiful qualities in who you are and how you live. So you will feel like He's always watching you, knowing good and well who He is and who you should be as a result of knowing who He is. So many scholars, they have commented in our history, there's something called Asbab al-Nuzul. It's a science of the Quranic sciences, and basically what it is scholars try to codify or put together books. In this ayah, what situation was it revealed in? Right? So under Surah Al-Layl, they put this ayah was revealed about Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. After deep study, I have come to the conclusion that I think they have it backwards. I think they have it backwards. So in a nutshell, and we want to save as much time as we can because I'm working on ihsan in my khutbah, not to go 45 minutes. So in a nutshell, he gives this subhanahu wa ta'ala, the glorious truth and the beautiful explainer and guide. He gives this clear difference of night and day. Very different. And then he talks about how He has created human beings different, male and female. Then he says, and your way of living as males and female human beings is different paths. So then he describes the ideal path. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. As for the one who gave, meaning they were selfless. They weren't selfish and greedy and arrogant and self-priding. They wanted to give of what they have, feeling that the one they know who has given them everything they have, they want to reflect that light. وَاتَّقَى. And they protected their soul, mindful of their soul's responsibility in front of its Lord. وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى. And embrace the truth of all that is good, knowing God, living in His guidance, and returning to Him in the eternity and bliss in His favor. That person will have the path of goodness made easy for them. And the other one is the greedy, the selfish, self-centered, who is not living up to the beauty of the greatness of life. So that person will have the rough road prepared for them as a result of their thinking. So then later in the surah, he talks about hellfire. وَسَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى الَّذِي يُؤْتِي مَالَهُ يَتَزَكَّى وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ عِنْدَهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ الْأَعْلَى. So he says, the one who gives his wealth, seeking purity of his wealth in himself, purity from selfishness and greed. And he does not do that seeking to please anyone other than seeking the pleasure of his Lord. So they said, this was revealed about Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. I will say, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was a nice guy before he learned about the Prophet ﷺ's revelation. And he knew the Prophet ﷺ. He was a businessman. His day was filled with making money and being a busy businessman and hanging out in the club, talking with the nobles. That's what he did with his life. He was not known to be some amazing, generous guy freeing slaves. Actually, his view of slavery was normal back before he heard revelation. He looked at slavery as part of our society. Those are the lowly, slave folk. And they are not on our level, and there's no way they could be on our level under any circumstances. Then he heard revelation. Surah Al-Layl was revealed in the 2nd year of prophethood. So how can it be any consequential revelation about Abu Bakr? Probably it's the thing that influenced Abu Bakr. It's what made him who he was, listening to it. So in essence, anyone who follows the Quran is being revealed about them because it is their guidance that makes them who they are, knowing from their Creator who they should be. So that is the reality of Abu Bakr. He was drastically changed to now go spend all his money to free slaves. This was a completely radical transformation in him. That is not the way he looked at life. That is not what he felt was a reasonable thing to do with your money. Shortly there before, he had received this revelation and heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. He had a very different idea about what money is and how it should be used and who he is and what nobility is and who is a slave and what is tribalism and what is the relationship and the value of human beings. All that was changed drastically. And I'm here to tell you that where we're at as an ummah, we need to rethink our connection with the Quran and the one who spoke it, so that we can fix many of these standardized attitudes and taken for granted ways that we live in. We have to go through that transformational embracing of Islam process every day, starting with Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. Somebody said, that's simple stuff. Are you living that simple stuff? Why is verses mentioned over and over? Why is the Prophet saying certain things over and over? Because the psychology of repetition, if you indeed see value in what you're repeating, it will mold who you are. So this is the secret of the success of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and what made them a transformed and transformational people. That's why collectively they were the greatest generation in the history of mankind. It's because they did not just read the Quran periodically, maybe in Ramadan for some religious knowledge or to get some religious hasanat. That was probably on the bottom of their list, to just get hasanat. We know you get hasanat for reading it, but that wasn't like their motivating factor. Their number one motivating factor was to get close to their creator, provider, and sustainer and know him. And that was to feed and nourish the soul so that the soul could overcome the body it's living in and move the mind and body to work for the one who has showered them with his life and his blessings. Surah Al-A'raf was revealed in the middle time of Mecca. It is the first long surah to be revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, 200 verses. Surah Al-A'raf is very long. Surah Al-A'raf is a holistically transformational from A to Z Quranic beauty explanation of guidance. Starts out talking about how people who have rejected it, what happened of them, and then it hits right at home at the beginning about the scale of spiritual worth being weighed on the Day of Judgment, and then it goes right into the story of Adam. Get you centered, where you come from and who you are, what kind of reality you are facing in your life. Who is your real enemy? And then it goes in a very methodical way, building the character of the person. And so at the end, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا وَذَرُوا الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ فِي أَسْمَائِهِ سَيُجْزَوْنَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. He says, God has all of the beautiful descriptions and traits, so call upon Him by them. And turn away from those who are rejecting or corrupting these beautiful qualities and traits. They will be accountable for what they have done. So the scholars commented on this verse, and they said, and it's interesting because Muslims always are repeating this false statement. They said, the word Allah is special because it cannot be taken, you cannot do ishtiqaq, you cannot derive from it. But in the tafsir, all of the mufassirin are saying one of the things that meant is Al-Lat was taken from Allah to make for Allah a wife. That's what Al-Lat, the idol, the big idol that they have, is to them. They are deriving from this word. And that was ilhad. To call something the worshipped, to have a wife, no longer becomes the. Now it is a partner. And Uzza came from Izzah. And so they're saying, no, Al-Aziz should be known as the source of all that, not something some guy built. Another thing was that they were mocking the Prophet ﷺ for calling on Ar-Rahman. He calls upon the gracious, merciful, compassionate, loving one. They said, what is this Rahman? And so God is saying, know God well, and those who you see that clearly don't know Him and mock Him, avoid spending a lot of time with these people. Do not keep them as close company. Then after that, and the next ayah says, the next ayah, وَمِمَّنْ خَلَقَنَا أُمَّةٌ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ وَبِهِ يَعْدِلُونَ. It's deep. The connection is very clear between these two for those who are looking for guidance. Then he says, and from the people that we have created is a nation who are guided by the truth. And according to it, they are just in how they deal with people. Meaning, the truth of guidance, if understood by a collective people, will bring justice to society. And what does that mean? The oppressed. Those that systems have been made to keep them low so that some people can stay high, which has always been there, and we are living in the cornerstone of the world's concentration of wealth, capitalist society. So they're hearing it, the more I know Allah, the more I know who He is, the more I know His traits and qualities and the truth of His message, I will join with people to establish justice in the earth. This is why Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and others are running to free the slaves and to take care of the poor and embracing who were known as weak and lowly poor people as equals. People with different skin tones and backgrounds as equal human beings. It was a very revolutionary attitude. And everyone in this room knows that a lot of Muslims have a lot of reviewing in their Quran to relieve themselves of the filth of racism, bigotry, and classism. The attitude of looking down on others because of a racial or financial economic status. We should be very careful to think, Alhamdulillah, I know Islam, I'm a Muslim. We all should be striving for excellence. Otherwise, we will not serve the best interests of society. We have to grow in who we are through knowing Him. When we look at Mus'ab ibn Umair, and I'll conclude with this story, he was the last chance for Muslims. He was a young man who was from the richest family in all of Mecca. Bani Abd Dar were the holders. His dad has the key of the Kaaba. They are the wealthiest, richest family of Quraysh. And they are the holders of the key of the Kaaba. And they are the main people who are supporting all of the Hajj pilgrims when they come. Mus'ab was so rich that every single day he wore a brand new shiny white silk robe, dragging behind him. And because as he dragged it, it gets a little bit dirty, and so then he cuts it up and gives it to the lowly people, the torn up, dirty. And this is why they saw that as arrogance, having your pants or something dragging. It wasn't because of a pant leg in a society that does not deem that as arrogance. It was a show of extravagant arrogance, looking down on everyone who cannot afford to have clothes every day. And so they said, before Mus'ab, when he was 12, 13 years old, before he embraced Islam, we could smell his beautiful scent from far away. The more we smelt it, the more he was coming closer and we couldn't even see him. Meaning the itr, the very strong cologne that he would wear every day, they all smell it. He was so rich. So he embraced Islam, went through torture and abuse, and they chained him up. Finally he escaped, ended up going to Ethiopia with a very different life. They called him Al-Muqri. Qari is one who reads the Quran nicely. Muqri is one who has a deep connection with the Quran that can make somebody else deeply attached to the Quran. That's who he was amongst the companions. So after he came back years later, and he's with the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ and his companions have gone through unspeakable amounts of torture, abuse, and boycott. And Ta'if, the Prophet ﷺ has come back. And the Prophet ﷺ has been met by some people from Yathrib saying, we've heard of your message, we'd like to know. And they said, could you send with us back to Yathrib someone of your nobles to enlighten us of this Quran and its message? He said, okay. Without hesitation, he sent this 19-year-old young man wearing a patched up robe, who you could probably, smell his body odor at this point. But his character and his dedication and his devotion and the transformation that he's gone through, the Prophet ﷺ made him the last chance of the Muslims, because there is no other stronghold where they can go live. Mecca is rejecting them, Abu Talib is dead, Mut'im ibn Adi is having very tough time supporting the Prophet from a political standpoint. He is in the worst situation, and this is the last hope. He sends Mus'ab. So Mus'ab goes with a guy named As'ad ibn Zurara, who was a respected young man, similar to his age, in the tribe of Aus, one of the two big tribes of Yathrib, which later became Medina. And so he goes with As'ad and he takes him to talk to people. He said, come with me to Aus, we have this courtyard and a well called Maraq. Come with me. So they go together to the well and they start talking. And across the courtyard, sitting in the nice, beautiful club area where all the wealthy nobles sit, is a guy named Sa'd ibn Mu'adh and Usayd ibn Hudayr. They're sitting there. And they're watching this. And he said, what is going on? So somebody went over there and they said, this guy has come from the Mecca and he's following some madman over there. And now people are listening to them and they want to follow him. And so Sa'd got very angry. He said, Usayd, what kind of nobleman are you? You sit here and watch while some fools come here, mocking our weak and lowly people, changing their religion and mocking our religion. Go kick them out of here. So Usayd goes over there with his spear. And he stands in front of them and he yells at them. Who do you fools think you are coming in here in the noble courtyard of Aus, drinking from our well, mocking us by misleading our fools and our weak people? So while he was coming over, As'ad ibn Zurara sitting with Mus'ab, he said, this guy is a very respected, powerful nobleman. He said, فَصْدُقِ اللَّهَ فِي. It's a beautiful way of talking. He said, show your genuine connection and call him to God the best you can. You know what he said? He said, if he will sit down with us, then I'll talk with him. Meaning what? I'm not going to aggressively go to him about religion. I'm not going to be that annoying guy who's trying to convert someone. If he wants to sit down and talk, then I'll talk with him. And he came and he's attacking them and saying all these things. So Mus'ab says, while sitting, the man is standing yelling at them, cursing, get out of here, you fool. He said, is there any way you could sit down and talk with us and listen to what I have to say? And if you like what I say, then obviously you'll accept it. But if you don't like it, then I'll stop saying such things and leave as you have suggested. So the guy was just totally moved, Usayd, and he comments later about narrating this story. He said, in his face and in the way he talked, the gentleness and the seemingly ocean of wisdom that this young boy in this raggedy, patched up thobe was speaking, I felt like I have to give him a chance. This is an interesting person. He said, Araftul Islam fi wajhi. I saw Islam in his face. So I sat with him. So he sits with him, and Mus'ab is explaining what the declaration of faith is, what it means to be a believer, and he read him some ayat. And Usayd said, I have never heard such beautiful, powerful language in my life, and I am a student of the poets. How can I follow your religion? He said, you'll go take a shower with the intention of cleaning away your old life, clean your clothes, make sure you have clean clothing, and then you should, pray and bow down and prostrate to God alone and none other in devotion to Him. And then you'll begin your life as a believer. He went away. Sa'd and Mu'adh and the others are like, what the heck just went down? What's going on over there? But they see themselves above the situation. Some fools, some little young boy. So he comes back. He comes Usaid, the new Muslim, he comes sometime later, and he tells them, they said, what happened? And then Saad says, Usaid has come with a face different than the one he left with. Meaning he seems like a different guy from the way he looks when he's walking up. You can see it in his face. He says, you know what, I don't see that these guys have any problem. He's like, what do you mean? What the heck is wrong with you? He said, you should just try to go talk with the guy. He said, no, I'll have none of this. What the heck, Will? What a loser. Why are you this and that? His character and all this. He goes over there, takes his spear, he said, get out of here. Mus'ab, calm, cool, and collected, easygoing. He's been called a fool and a maniac and following a madman. He says, can you please just sit down and give me a chance to, I will just try to explain to you what it is I'm talking about. And if you like it, then you'll accept it. But if it's wrong, then I'll leave you alone and get out of here as you have suggested. He said the same thing. It seemed like the guy's being fair. Fair enough. Sat down, and then he became Muslim. I've run out of time. What I was going to do after this is bring Asma'ul al-Husna and describe each level of the way that Mus'ab was acting towards these two aggressive, angry noblemen. And you will find Asma'ul al-Husna are governing the behavior of Mus'ab, the 19-year-old young man. And it is his deep, loving certainty to this truth and to knowing who God is that has made him who he was. And then within the next year, there was not a house in Medina that did not have Muslims in it. And that led to the hijrah. And that led to all of us sitting here today. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. It is incumbent upon everyone who says, I am a Muslim, to live that out to the best of his or her ability. That requires a few things. Number one, a daily connection and reading of the divine truth as it was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And number two, it requires a community of people who are connected solely for the purpose of a spiritual family, not for ethnic reasons. This is the ethnic, the Prophet said, دَعُوهَا فَإِنَّهَا مُنْتِنَةٌ. The Prophet was asked about tribalism, feeling love and allegiance to tribe. He said, leave that, it's a filthy way of being. Here at MCC, we're establishing that. What will naturally come as a result of people who are genuinely, sincerely seeking divine guidance by connecting and knowing in devotion to the divine, striving for excellence to become better people through that knowledge, Charlotte will become a better place, just like Yathrib became the best place. It became Madinatul Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so that is what we are calling you all to do, to become part of our community and to become part of a collective in the oneness of Allah, through the oneness of His message, through the oneness of His people. And to, in a loving, compassionate way, reflecting the divine qualities and traits, to bring more into that oneness. So I ask Allah to guide us, count us among those whom He has guided, bless us, bring blessings in our life through your guidance, through our devotion to you. Help us to become better people. Give us the means and the motivation to struggle and strive for your pleasure. Make us among those who are resurrected with your beloved, and that we walk into heaven over the gate fastly and steadily. That we come into heaven having earned a place in your bliss because we have heard a word that you have sent to your prophets and followed it to the best of our ability. Forgive us for our sins, our weaknesses, our shortcomings, our laziness, our lack of sincerity. Embrace us. Help us to be among those who you love. Help us to be among those who you appreciate. Help us be among those who you have guided and those who you have forgiven and showered with your mercy. وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.